The sounds of ABBA, Take a Chance on Me, and so many times we take a chance in life and whom we meet and whom we marry and whom we go into business with, and taking a chance can be something very good or very bad. Gamblers do it every day, and you know, Mother Nature's a wonderful odds maker. But with that, just one of the subjects we want to discuss today with my friend, my dear friend, the Connecticut Epilepsy Advocate, Bobby Fiore. Thank you.
Hey, Paisan, thanks for having us back.
Well, listen, it's always great because our discussions take us to places that I don't think either you or I, or maybe not you, but I, of very limited imagination, can imagine.
Oh, I don't know about limited.
But
unique, but not limited.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bob is here to tell us about his event, first of all, taking place. And let me tell you something about Bob. We get new people here all the time. And one of the things, like if we're posting material, if somebody's going down, and if they look and if they see someone who is a frequent contributor to this show, they'll say, oh, I've already seen that, that was good. But they don't realize we're doing new material because we barely scratch the surface with so many things that we do. And you are of that category where, you know, you're constantly bringing something new to the plate and, you know, making me look a whole lot better than I deserve to look. But with that, Bob has an event taking place in Milford, Connecticut on March 2nd. But I want to talk a little bit about Bob. This is a man who is dealing with and has the condition of epilepsy, but in a what I think is just a touching and remarkable show of just, I am going to get this done because nobody out there is doing what needs to be done, has made himself an army of one to bring about the awareness of epilepsy in society. And, you know, for people watching this show, they know that, you know, I am affected. My dad had epilepsy during a time when it was like you had to keep it in the closet. But Bob has taken this crusade and has mainstreamed it, has made himself known, has made himself aware. This is a man who will appear at the drop of a hat to promote his cause. And I know, like in this business, I mean, put it this way, I work primarily in two businesses. I work in this business and I work in, you know, quote unquote, the trust business, where, you know, that's primarily where I have been. And it's often hard to get people to commit to anything. No one wants to commit to anything these days, but it's like, hey Bob, you know, I need you here for this. This man is here because he sees a greater benefit. And that's touching to me. Because there's, you know, when you have so many things in your life kind of going every which way, and it's like, and my first thing is, where's the constant? Where can I put my foot down? And I can put my foot down next to you because I know that you'll be there when, you know, to meet me at that point in time. So, can I ask you this before we talk about the event?
Sure.
Is it, and this is a dumb question, which I'm really good at asking, is it hard being a one-man army?
No, it's not. It's something that I don't mind doing and making the effort. But in fairness, you know, we have our fellow board members and they do a lot of work. But unlike them, I do not have a full-time job. My job is running this organization. So sure, I have a little more time to spend with, you know, they're working parents, you know, they have their family to take care of, they're the breadwinners, etc. So yeah, I have a little more time, but of course, it's something that I want to do to the best of my ability. And of course, being, you know, us being old school, sometimes I feel like I didn't do enough. And I'm like, come on, Bob, you did pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, the way we were brought up, it's never been good enough. And you keep trying.
You keep trying, and you run into that thing of saying, well, if only I had an army, wow, would I be able to do? I couldn't be stopped. But then, in order to have an army, you've got to plan for the army, you've got to feed the army, you've got to coordinate the army. You've got to hope and pray to God that everybody in the army has got your vision for what they want to do. And you know, you don't have those things, but you know, the burden does get heavy. You know, and but believe me, I stand in, you know, appreciation and admiration because you have taken the cause of epilepsy awareness and you've put it out there, you know, and you've said, hey, this is it. I am like anybody else, I have this medical condition and others do too. And, you know, if not for you, what are people really going to know? You know, and I believe me, because we'll get into that a little bit later
It's,
about,
it's
you know.
very, it's very nice that you said that. And in fairness, my wife was the one that said to me, says, why don't you start your own organization?
Mhm.
And coming from her, that's true encouragement. So, and the rest of you know.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that's another thing. If we could really bear with our spouses tell us and really internalize it and do what they are telling us to do, man, you know, it's like there'd really be no stop. But we have these notions of, you know, yeah, we tend to know more. You know, we tend to know, you know, I think as husbands, I think we're the classic example of a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. Anyway, but you're here to talk about the event. Sunday, March 2nd, 2014, 12 o'clock p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Join the Connecticut Epilepsy Advocate Strikeout Epilepsy. And in your promotion, this is one of the annual events the Connecticut Epilepsy Advocate will hold to make people aware about epilepsy. And this is, these are the rules. 6 people per lane. Please, pizza, supreme nachos, and soda will be served. Enjoy the hours of bowling and help people with epilepsy and their families. And this will be at the Milford Lanes, 1717 Boston Post Road in Milford, Connecticut. And donations are truly appreciated. And you will be joined by Miss Connecticut USA Desiree Perez.
Yes, it was really great. We asked her if she would come and join us, and she did. You know, and
Isn't that great?
One of the biggest reasons I asked her is the fact that in the epilepsy community, there's quite a few from the Latin, Spanish population.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a research, and I wish the numbers weren't 2010, but when you see how many thousands there are per county, after 6 counties, I'm like, okay, that's enough, the numbers are high. So between looking at that and the fact that she's bilingual, you know, speaking to people directly, it's been very helpful. Because even though, and it's not our tagline, talk about it, but people do not talk about it, and a lot of people are not comfortable. So who else can make you more comfortable by speaking to her?
Well, and you have, you know, obviously a young, attractive person here who's willing to help you promote and to support you in this, you know, endeavor, and that's right. A terrific thing.
Yeah, and again, it's not a black and white thing like, oh, we're going to get so and so and come promote it. No,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we try to look at a wide range of people, what they can address, how they can help other people. Because if you just keep it that same way, it gets boring, and we don't want boring.
No, and you know, I think you're right. I think there's a comfort in routine, but yet I think if you kind of get too routine, then you more or less kind of start to follow the maze, and then it, you know, even yourself, you kind of find your way, you know, you kind of find your way sort of clouded, and you got the right approach.
Right. I mean, things you're very repetitive on is the fact that, excuse me, over 3 million in America have epilepsy. Here in Connecticut, approximately 60,000. The numbers are virtually not going to change. Will they go up? Of course. But we just got to keep those numbers around. However, when it comes to addressing things with health care, people medication, can they afford the medication? Are they getting the correct medication from the pharmacy? This whole issue about getting the correct medication prescribed by the doctor as opposed to from a different manufacturer. The fact that you want to save money compared to the fact that will that medication work for you, 2 completely different things. And we've said for years, think of how it's going to affect the person. And the best example I can give you is if you went to whatever grocery store and you purchased their aspirin opposed to a popular name brand, if that popular name brand is going to work for you, you want that first. Now, granted, if the other one will get rid of your headache 20 minutes later, it's just a headache. But the epilepsy medication, if that's going to prevent a seizure much quicker, yeah, you definitely want to do that.
Well, you know, and you strike many chords there, because my wife Kathy, who works in healthcare and management, and you know, I'll pick her up, I'll leave here, I'll pick up, and she'll be off in the car about, you know, quote unquote, the bureaucrats are running healthcare, and this is a problem because it's the sort of thing where, how could I put it? I think if you're involved in anything people related, even if it's a profit-making endeavor, this is what I have found, my revelation in life, that it's not always going to be about, you know, if you so tilt this thing to profit, you'll completely lose the benefit or the objective of, we're here to help people and we're here to help people do things. And from what she has said, we'll keep this to healthcare. This is not about me. This is about you. In healthcare, what you will see, and I've seen it like with my elderly clients in the trust business, is they're in facility X. And you'll go through and they've got these wonderful marketing materials and this is beautiful and we're doing all this other, how much is it a month? Well, you know, you can buy yourself a pretty nice car in a couple of these monthly payments, and you say, my Lord, or they want this huge upfront deposit. I'm talking huge in capital letters. And, you know, when so-and-so passes on, you get the money back minus 15% or something. And then it's like, well, you know, Lord help us if this person needs like additional medication or water or bandages or incontinence pants or whatever. They all end up as quote-unquote extras on the bill. And you're saying to yourself, well, it's a for-profit trying to make a profit or with the intention of making a profit, and yet the sacrifice of the care of that individual, as much as they want to tell you this is about the individual, no, it isn't. It's about the shareholders, the stockholders, the partners, the limited partners, and whatever the case may be, bringing that back to you. What you're telling me, or what I think I'm hearing is, now we now have this Affordable Care Act. Trying to figure it out. And then it's like, well, medication B, which is the quote-unquote generic equivalent of medication A, which costs X minus, and that ain't going to do what medication A did.
Right.
Or something like that. And then you have these people who are adjusting very well to medication A who now have to do medication B. And then as far as either the bureaucrat or the executive or the healthcare executive said, well, I cut costs, I am a good person. But yet what you're hearing, and what I agree with, is this person who was doing okay now is put at risk because of bureaucracy or profit or whatever you want to call it.
Right, and it's not only with the Affordable Care Act, it's also, we have a friend that just retired. So one person had said, oh, you have to get Social Security retirement Part A, B, C, and D. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I said, Part A and B, absolutely. I says, why would he want to get D? He has prescriptions. I said, well, look at it this way. They take X amount out of your check each month. I said, once you find out how much you're taking out and compare that to the cost of the prescription. So hypothetically, if they take out $50 a month and your prescription's $10, you just wasted $40. So it's, and as far as Affordable Care Act, you know how we feel about that? Is it needed? Absolutely. And the thing that I've said in the past, which is never going to come to fruition, is that if the people in the government ever had to go through what we go through, they would view it differently. But I'm not holding my breath, nor are you.
No, and I mean, when I mean, the costs of society, I mean, if you fill up your car, you see the fuel cost.
Yeah.
And I mean, groceries are expensive, but if you're, you know, judicious, you pick the sales. I was in a market on Saturday. It was, and they had some very good sales on, and you could do the 2-fers and the 3-fers, and you can walk out with a full thing of groceries, and you actually felt like you did something good. You know, that wasn't too bad. But when it comes to education and healthcare, education's a story in and of itself. You know, why on earth education has to be so expensive, and why that can't be delivered at a better rate where people, and I'm not just talking, but, you know, trade school, manufacturing, learning how to do things. I mean, you know, you now have this broadband capability where you could just deliver the stuff practically cost-free. But when you come to healthcare, it's like, well, why is everything so high? And you hear on one side, okay, it's the malpractice insurance, pointing the finger at that, you know, or it's the pharmaceutical companies, they want to get too rich, pointing the finger at this, or it's, you know, the regulators who are causing all this thing. And you just say to yourself, as these facets just keep spinning out of control, Lord help, and I have been there, with quote unquote the person entering the healthcare system. It's like, you talk about being Scarlett O'Hara. Where do I go? What do I do? And there's no one there saying, okay, hey, get over here. This is what we're going to do. And that's where I think you've just been a blessing to so many people. Because you took this guy and said, hey, look, 50 minus 10 equals 40. You can do something with 40.
Right.
But there's no one out there really advocating for the patient's welfare.
Well, again, that's one of the things that we do, amongst others. And I want to go back to something you said last year, as far as, again, we only have the one fundraiser, Strikeout Epilepsy. Walking Miles for Epilepsy is a get-together. But what you had mentioned in a very nice way is the fact that you don't seem to ask for donations. We would love to have people donate. And part of Strikeout Epilepsy, we request donations, but also we have people sponsoring lanes.
Let's talk about that. The entry fee is $30 a person, and that goes to support the cost of the endeavors, which I know is not cheap. And then you've given me here a sponsor form.
Right.
A regular banner. Now, if somebody wants to do a banner, would they just have to provide the information for the banner, or would they actually?
They just send us the basic info on what they want there. So if they put,
and you'll produce the banner.
Right.
Isn't that great?
And it's up there for 6 days prior to the event. So we don't want to make people think, oh, you paid for a banner, it's there for 4 hours and you take it down. Not only is it up there for 6 days prior, it comes down the next day, and it's on our website for all to see.
And a platinum banner, $300 per lane for a 5x3, isn't that great?
Oh, let's go up.
And a block of lanes regular banner, $1,000 for a 6x4. Is there going to be any room on the alley here to bowl?
It's above the lanes.
Okay. Now I like this. 6 people per lane can bowl at no cost to them, whether they are employees, friends, or family. You've got a block of lanes platinum banner, $2,500 for an 8x5. Your company logo next to your banner will be centered above 25 lanes with 4 free lanes. 6 people can bowl at no cost to them, whether they are employees, friends, or family. Each banner will have 4 lines with a text of your choice, starting with your company name, then followed by anything from the street address, city and state, phone number, website, or tagline slogan, followed by proud sponsor of Strikeout Epilepsy 2014. All banners will be displayed for 5 days prior to the event and taken down the day after. They will be delivered to you within 7 working days. Images of all banners are displayed on our website. Isn't that neat? And sponsorship forms must be submitted no later than Monday, February 10th, 2014. So you have somebody helping with the banners. That's a great endeavor. Because I'll tell you, having done trade shows in the past, it's a very easy thing to get a booth. It's very exciting to have your materials, and where am I going to sit in the store? It's like, well, you need a banner. Like, humming. Getting a banner is a very tough thing to do. You have to go to a graphics person, and you have to show, and you hope they're listening to you, and that day your heart is beating, and you take it out of the box, and you've already got that covered.
We've found a very good company, and they're super cooperative. We just email everything to them, they send it back with a proofread, and it's simple as that.
Isn't that great? Yeah, I mean, because really that makes things incredibly easier, because it's things that you think are easy to do, like, oh, get a banner. Well, go in your garage with a can of spray paint and try painting one. It's not easy stuff, people. Let me tell you, it's got to be done correctly.
But this, again, by having this type of fundraiser, everything we brought up in the past, where people cannot afford medication, if they need a medical alert chain, I wear the medical alert bracelet. Right. I mean, I know it's loud, but okay, I don't mind. But anything that's relevant to epilepsy, where a person can afford it, this is where this money gets used. And you know how we pinch every penny regarding how this office gets run, etc.
Well, we were talking about that on the ride over this morning, and my father would have an analogy that about somebody pinching a dime so hard that he could make Franklin Delano Roosevelt walk without his crutches. It's just that you've become, or we'll put it this way, I think you get to it, you've become, and this is another thing, because you can talk about, and there's information out on GuideStar about how charities are being run. You do a wonderful job of, you talk about doing more with less. I mean, you're squeezing water out of dry morsels. It's an amazing thing.
Most of that, it's because of my wife. I mean, the two of us literally pinch every penny,
Mhm.
but she's unique with that.
Yeah, it's, you know, and the fact of the matter is, and I mean, we could spend days and days and days about charities that are, or nonprofits that are run with administrators going on the six figures and on and on and on and on it goes. And say, why do they need all those people? And, you know, look at what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. But the other thing I find unique is the fact that the younger generation now, they understand medical conditions just like epilepsy. And the youngest of our nieces and nephews is my goddaughter too, Cassandra. And she's seen what her Uncle Bob went through when she was very young. And what really made her happy one day was having epilepsy before the surgery. I had to give up driving for 7 years. So once everything was set and I got back to driving, one morning it was at her place. I said, come on, let's go for breakfast. So we're driving and she goes, Uncle Bob, this is the first time I've ever been there.
Been in the car with you.
We're driving,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that meant something. But to see how they put something together, how they put in a little bit of testimonies, and now they understand what it's like to live with this, where in the past, it really was not addressed. It really was not addressed.
Well, and that's what I'm glad you've brought up, because we talked about this over the weekend, and, you know, no warts and all here in Connecticut morning. My dad had epilepsy during a time when this was something that was, you know, terrible. You stuffed it in the closet. And when I had sent out the first, what I typically do is I'll outline my shows and I'll send them out to the guests and I'll say, okay, give me your comments, questions, whatever the case may be. Well, Bob was back to me in 10 minutes. He said, these are the bumps I want. He wanted ABBA to take a chance on me. Because the whole thing of, quote unquote, a relationship of a serious or marital or intimate nature with a person with epilepsy. And I had remarked to you that I was in my barn and my mother's wedding dress is hanging in the cedar
Right.
closet. And it goes back to, you know, time immemorial, the 1940s, and the beautiful quilted material that and the coat, the train that you don't see anymore. And I envisioned my mother in that dress, and I said, well, at the time she was in that dress, she did not know my father was afflicted, because you just didn't talk about those things. And she was just a young girl, you know, in her 20s, going off to get married. And to me, it was like chilling. And I said, you know, or it's that whole 6 degrees of separation. And my life is like a pretzel. It seems like the 3 or 4 things that I happen to be doing somehow wind to the same thing. And then we got into a discussion of having a relationship with someone who has epilepsy. And I don't even know where to begin, but I'm sure you do.
Well, let's look at it this way. In fairness, when I was dating, there were quite a few people, and they understood Bob has epilepsy,
Mhm.
no big deal. And other people, we were dating, and they're like, you have to tell them you have epilepsy. Talk about getting dropped like a hot potato. The one that I know, it's repetitive, but I use for an example, was dating a woman in New York, and over in Brooklyn. And I figured, all right, this thing is working out really good. I might as well tell her. Long story short, we asked the next time we're going to get together, after we wiped out 7 days a week, I'm like, okay, this isn't working. Take the subway back to Grand Central, slept on the floor, and took the next train back to Connecticut. Ironically, with my wife, when it got to that point, I said, I have to tell her. She says, okay, tell me more. And that's another reason we're married 26 years. So that tells you how great of a person that she is, but she totally understands it. And the reason I picked out ABBA, Take a Chance on Me, we said for years, do you know what it's like to have a relationship with a person with epilepsy? And I say, listen to the song Take a Chance on Me by ABBA. You listen to those words, and they're very interesting. They do explain, without using the word epilepsy, what it's like to have a relationship with someone. Take a chance on me. Why not?
Well, and that brings us to a discussion perhaps off the page, but hey, it's Connecticut morning.
Yeah.
And, you know, the whole thing of where people will, you know, the expectations they might have in a wedding. Now, I'm sure you can relate to this, where how many, younger women did we see getting married in Stanford? 18, 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
And they had these Italian fathers with the 50-inch chests who were usually builders.
Yeah.
And, it was Bachicaloop. I'm going to build you a masterpiece and to put this house up,
Yeah.
this huge house. The girl's 19 years old.
Yeah, the cakes were usually as big as the house.
Exactly. And you're driving down the road 2 years later and the house is for sale. It's like, what happened? And it's
You
like...
spend that money on that cake. What
I'm gonna need 5 more minutes, Luigi. But you kind of hit that whole thing, and we all have warts. We all have imperfections. We all have this, and it's the thing of how could I put it? And I've said this to people for years and years and years. If you tell me what it is before it takes place, I can deal with it, and believe me, it's the inside out of that is the DeAngelo theory. I hate surprises. Any kind of, don't give me a surprise party. I hate it. But but realizing life does have its surprises, and I think what you speak to is, before you get married, have open, honest communication about everything that's on the table. All the work, because you know something, you're going to be facing it, and everybody's got it, and nobody marries a perfect person. We're not perfect. We don't come into this life perfect, and we don't leave perfect.
No, I totally agree. And again, you were kind enough to mention how we address so many things, and we have a blood drive coming up later this year.
Right.
And that was something, as I mentioned, for decades and decades, a person with epilepsy could not donate blood. And it is explained on the blood donation page on our website. You can find out. And it doesn't matter whether you have epilepsy or any other medical condition. The number that's there, you call them up, you explain what it is. In the case of epilepsy, the first thing they want to know is what medication you're on. They compare that. And also, is it been more than 2 years since you've had a seizure? Once they look into all of that, then they'll let you know if you are a candidate to give. However, if you're not, please encourage others to do so.
Yeah, and be ready for the next time, and that's great. We're out of time again. And this is the thing. These guys have to keep coming back because they are a wealth of information. The event, and let me just make sure I have this right before we leave. This is March 2nd, 2014. 12 o'clock p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Strikeout Epilepsy at the Milford Lane, 1717 Boston Post Road, Milford, Connecticut. Sponsor a lane. Get out, have some fun, see Bobby, have a few laughs. You won't regret it, let me tell you. Thanks so much, pal. You'll
Thank
be
you,
with
Tony.
us.
Appreciate it. And everything is on our website, ct-ea.org.
And actually go see that website because great information that's out there. So with that, we'll be coming back with some of the lovable losers, maybe not lovable if you rooted for these teams, of the Super Bowls of the past. Right back after this. Thanks very much.